Once you and your client have identified something that could hold them back and gotten the perspective of potential employers and the individual themselves, you can move into problem solving mode. You can now create solutions that will overcome the barrier. When you and your client are creating solutions, you want solutions that will either reduce the impact of the barrier or eliminate it altogether. Good solutions do two things. They satisfy the employer and they work for the individual candidate. In terms of satisfying the employer, they're going to reduce the employer's concerns about hiring someone with that situation, but they're not just going to move from negative ground to neutral ground and reduce those concerns so the employer's not concerned about hiring them. They're also going to take an opportunity whenever it makes sense to transition to the positive and have the candidate then share why they would be great for the job. So satisfy the employer by reducing their concerns and taking a chance to prove the candidate would be a great fit for the job. In terms of working for the candidate has to buy it. And as I mentioned in step 2, you might have 4 people with the same issue, but they feel or think 4 different ways about it, which means they might overcome it 4 different ways. So start where they are. We have 6 solution tools that we use in overcoming barriers. Here's some good news. We've never encountered a barrier that could not be overcome. Doesn't mean that you can wave away 45 pounds someone needs to lose or give them a degree or some dental work that they need or expunge a criminal history. But what it does mean is that whatever your client faces, there are people in the U.S. workforce who have overcome that and are working and are leading and are thriving. And if they can do it, I want to say if they can do it, your client can too, but it depends on your client's mindset. If they can do it, we know it can be done. Maybe your client will allow it to come to fruition in their life as well. We've also never encountered a barrier that couldn't be overcome with one or some combination of the 6 tools I'm going to share with you. You can use these in no particular order. Please be careful about assuming that you know which tools should be used because it depends on the client. But here's a good order to sort of think of them in. I'll list them out first and give you a quick idea for each one. Number 1, or one solution tool, is to change the job target. A second solution tool is to help the candidate adjust their outlook. A third way to overcome barriers is to help candidates access a resource. Fourth, they could learn a skill. Fifth, they could try to adjust the hiring employer's perspective. And sixth, they could craft a good answer to explain or share their story. A quick thought on each. And if you want to take a deep dive into it, you could buy the 6 Reasons You'll Get the Job. You could take a look at all the sample solutions using these tools in the book No One is Unemployable, or join us for our Career Ninja intensive program for practitioners who are serving people with barriers, but we all have barriers. So whoever you're serving, the Career Ninja strategies will work for you. So in terms of changing the job target, don't change anything about the individual client. A barrier for one job is not a barrier for every job. So change only what needs to be changed, but maybe you switch industries or location or geography, or maybe the level of the position or the actual job title and the skill group that they're using. Change the job. Find an employer for whom it's a non-issue. You might even find an employer for whom it's an asset. If you're going to help them adjust their outlook, we can barely adjust our own outlook. You're not going to change their outlook. But if you could help them see that they have an outlook and a desired outcome that are at odds, they are mutually exclusive and they can't have both, the question becomes, which is more important? Genuine question. Which is more important to you? To maintain this outlook that no one's hiring or you're too old, or the outcome of, I want a professional level job, or I need to be working within 2 months. Those two things don't go together. Which is more important right now? And if they say, I really want to be working, then help them challenge and adjust this stinking thinking to thinking that better supports their new outcome. Again, for a deeper dive, look at the books or the program. If you want to help them learn a skill, and maybe you help them drive a forklift or learn a computer program, but more likely it's about being on time or asking tough questions or showing up for a virtual interview looking great. It's a job search and career management skills. You may help them learn some of those things. You may help them access a resource, whether that's information, a list, some people, some opportunities. It may be a service, like maybe they need a certain kind of clothing or training or certification or dental work or counseling. You can help them access that, and that can sort of cover a multitude of sins. Now, if the employer is going to find out about the situation when the client shows up or when they talk to some of their past employers or their references, you might work with the client to use the fifth tool, which is to adjust the employer's attitude or perspective. And in this case, we have to realize, let's say that the client is on the older side or they're overqualified. And there's a suspicion that the employer is going to think that they don't want to stay very long, or they're going to be too expensive, or they're not going to be reliable. Your client is not going to change the employer's perspective about older workers or people who are overeducated for the job. The candidate can't change the employer's perspective. What they can do is to position themselves as an exception to the rule. Older workers may be all that, but let me tell you about me. And in doing so, they can adjust the employer's perspective, not about people like that, but about them as an individual. And they can do this with words. They can also do it just with behavior and demonstration. And the final solution tool is crafting a good answer. And that is to explain. And sometimes the employer will ask, I see you haven't been working for X amount of time. What have you been doing? Other times the employer will not ask, but the suspicion is running around in their head. So the client may say, I'm glad you asked. Here's what's going on. And they're going to meet them in negative ground, go neutral, and then go positive. Or they might say, you might be thinking that, or you may have noticed that. I might be older than. I may have more education than some of the people that you're considering. Here's what's true of me today. Negative to neutral, and then positive. The reason I want to work for you is, I'm so grateful for your time today because, and they go positive. I hope this helps. Thank you for the good work that you do. Thank you for letting me be just a little part of it. And if we can be of help or encouragement, please take a look at WorkNetSolutions.com and look at our training programs and our tools. We're here to serve you. Thanks so much.